Hello, my name is Jody Keane, and I'm here to show you some of my artwork. I'm here in my studio in Sausalito, California. I'm a painter and a sculptor, and behind me you can see some of my sculpted pieces. I'm primarily a figurative artist, and one of the things that I'm very interested in when I sculpt someone is attitude. I'm interested in humor, and I'm interested in a sort of a light-hearted attitude. I sculpt mostly women, and I'd like to show you some of my work and talk about it. This fellow is called Tony. He's one of my earlier pieces, and one thing I really like about him is he's also very useful. He's held everything from car keys to grapes to earring backs and so forth. One thing that I really am interested in when I sculpt is the dynamic of going from 3 dimensions to 3 dimensions. When I paint, there is always a translation involved where you're translating from the 3rd dimension into a 2-dimensional surface, whereas with sculpture it's very direct. It's just see it, do it. I'm also the kind of sculptor that I sculpt with friends, and they're often they often find my process humorous in that I tend to view my subject. I don't like an armature or any sort of inside apparatus to hold up the piece, and so I work from the bottom up, and I work it almost like a dress pattern. You know, I make a cylinder, I take a dart, I fold, and then I begin to maneuver the exterior of the piece so that it not only holds itself up, but it then begins to gain a life and a sort of a softness and a skin-like quality. These 3 pieces are good examples of the size that I work. The size is determined primarily by the size of the kiln that I fire them in. The kiln height is about 27 inches, and if they do exceed that height, then I have to cut them into pieces and then add them back together again. Also the finish on these pieces is very typical of what I do. I'm not particularly familiar with glazes, nor was I ever formally trained as a sculptor. So I'm much more comfortable doing my finishes in an acrylic paint medium. In the case of these pieces, this one has a pearlized finish, and I like that, and I like the patterning of the clothing and various things about the pieces that I can completely determine exactly what I'm going to end up with. Glaze, on the other hand, is a little bit unpredictable, and particularly if you're not very experienced with it. So I like to stick to acrylic finishes with my people. This one in particular, whoa girl, this one in particular exemplifies my interest in this, so that the humorous and gaining a certain amount of attitude with my pieces and humor. I'd like to talk for a minute about my smaller pieces, which are also finished in acrylic. It's a medium that's a 3-part medium that begins with 2 undercoats of a sort of metallic finish paint, and then an over application of something that behaves very much like acid, which gives it the you know, the sort of 1,000 pigeons in the park effect. These small figures are really kind of gesture poses, and they're done very quickly. Always I work from live models, whether I'm sculpting or painting. And in this case, the model's pose is only about a 30-minute pose. It's very difficult for a model to hold any sort of a twisted or overlapping pose for longer than 20 or 30 minutes. But these are good examples of a wonderful model that we have who is able to contort and really hold a pose for quite a while. I'm often asked also, this piece is a good example. Gee, do you know your hands are really big? Yes, I planned it that way. I'm always really interested in hands and feet, and I think they're just, they're such an indicator of a person and what the person does and what they're about. And so I do tend to make very large hands, and yes, I am aware of it. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you got an insight into the way that I work in my sculpture. You can buy my art on montaggio.com and interact and see other videos and other pictures of my work. Thank you once again.